it just feels great. It gave it just such a different, something like some sort of cultural texture. I don't even know what you'd call it. It was just amazing, the feel of it.
Hi folks, welcome back to another episode of the Guitar Cast. This week I have with me ARIA nominated and platinum producer and mixer, Mr. James Angus. How you going, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. We've been back and forth for quite a while now trying to organise this.
Yeah.
But you've been back and forth all around the country.
Yeah.
For the last couple of months.
Yeah.
Working hard.
Yeah, working hard, trying to.
Trying to work hard. Folks, for those of you who don't know James, as I mentioned, he's an ARIA nominated platinum mix engineer and producer. You've worked with several big artists, including the Veronicas, E40, The Last Dinosaurs, some local up-and-coming known artists, Toby Hobart.
Yep.
And you've also moved into the management side of things now. And one of your artists is Ivana.
Yep.
And she was top 6 on Australian Idol.
Yeah, I think they call them semi-finalists, but yeah, top six, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about her shortly with her new track. But let's talk about last year was quite big for you.
Yeah.
You were ARIA nominated with Chanel Lorenz track.
Rollin'.
Yeah. Let's talk about that track. I've listened to that track. I really like it.
Yeah.
It's a soulful, funky.
Yeah.
It has a ballad.
Yeah.
Feel to it.
It's a 6/8, which is you don't really hear that kind of timing much these days. You hear more. Everything's 4/4.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, it was nice and guitar driven.
Yeah.
So but it was nice. It just kind of, how'd it come about? Yeah. I was writing with a friend of mine. His name's Paul. Amazing guitar player from the Gold Coast, and he just started playing those chords, and then I just built sort of a track around that. And this was before I even knew Chanel. And so you kind of, what you do as a producer sometimes is you just build tracks and then sort of put them in a pack or a catalog or something, and then that gets sent around, and sometimes years later things happen. But I think that one was the only time I've ever done a piece of music and before I met the artist, they'd written to it. So it was sent kind of via my manager to her manager, and she'd written to it, and then I heard it back with vocal, which is really rare. Usually I'm in the studio with the artist creating the... And
because you co-write a lot too.
Yeah. I'm not the best with lyrics, but I can. I'll suggest, if I think a word sounds not great, or should be different, maybe, or the message is kind of getting lost a bit in the song. Yeah, so I'll jump in on that. But yeah, so that one was like the demo came back, and it just had something different about it, like in a good way, And then I worked with Chanel from there to finish it off, but. It was such a great one to work on, and I think she had a co-writer as well, Asta, who did a great job. And it just sometimes they just work, and it just So
when I listened to that track, it reminded me. She doesn't sound like her, but she has such a soulful voice.
Yeah,
it was very reminiscent of Amy Winehouse.
Okay,
doesn't sound like Amy Winehouse. I don't like comparing, but it's like, oh man, her voice is really soulful and touching. Yeah,
that's nice. Yeah, we had a lot of influences from, I think the 6/8 thing she said to me, she said, it gives me like a timeless feel. I don't really know why. And I think it was the timing. It was the ballad, that step. And she said, I think her mum used to play Etta James and those type of singers. So that's probably, it all comes from that,
So many timeless ballads have been written in 3/4 or 6/8.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes with songs too, you do them and you love them at the time, and then when they come out, you kind of forget about them. But that one just kind of kept sticking around and kept, and then people would repost it on Instagram and things, and I was like, wow, it's getting it just kind of kept getting a second life, third life, and then it was great to hear it got nominated. So it was,
And that was through Sony?
Yes, through Sony, So she's an artist on Sony, and they nominated it. And it was great news to hear. It was my first nomination. Like, I'd been nominated as part of an album previously, but that was my first nomination, on a single. So it was great.
That's a big achievement.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So next thing I want to talk about is going platinum with Camouflage Rose.
Yeah.
Late Nights.
Yeah.
Another really soulful track.
Yeah.
I've listened to that, and I love all the production, which we're going to
Yeah, we can dive into it. Yeah,
that at some point.
Yeah.
That's a big track, over 17 million streams.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about how that one came about also?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you how I met him, which is probably
Yeah.
interesting. His name's Larry, so if I refer to him as Larry, that's what I'm talking about. But I met him, it was like 2014, so it was a long time ago, and he was at an open mic. I went to see one of my friends who was an acoustic performer, and it was like an open mic night, and he kind of came out during the set, just to kind of, because my friend was singing the whole night, and then he came out just to kind of spice the evening up a bit. And I think he was probably like 21, 22 at the time, so he was really young. And I remember I was giving out my details. I just opened like a studio. It wasn't really a studio, it was a studio, like a project studio, but I loved it. It was with a couple of friends, and I was trying to get people to record just to get my chops up and get better. And I remember I gave a bunch of people that night, I went from place to place to see performers and gave people my details, but he rang me back, like, he was probably the only person that rang me back. And then we just started working together, and he just had something that I just, he just had a love and a burning love for music that, you just know it in people. And
I can hear it.
Yeah. And so ever since then, I was working with him, and that song took about, we'd worked on other styles and other songs just to kind of I didn't know it was artist development at the time, it was like helping someone find their voice and their style and their sound. And I think I was doing the same thing as a producer. And so we tried, he'd bring like beats to me, or I would make a beat. But this song in particular he was like kind of the first thing he tried to actually sing, because he was more a rapper beforehand. It didn't really have a melodic style, but this was the first one where he kind of, and he was always a lyric first, then melody. Yeah, which I found interesting. And so he used to write in a notebook, which you don't really see anymore, but he used to come with these notebooks and notebooks of lyrics. And
pen and paper.
Yeah, pen and paper,
it's still, I think, where creativity flows the most.
Yeah.
With lyric writing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but laptop lyric, I don't know. There's something about
it doesn't
pen
feel
to paper, right? Yeah.
It's funny. I worked with I had the pleasure of working with Troy Cassar-Daley.
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, and he writes. He said there's something about committing to paper. Like he said, there's something about that process of the commitment, and it's worked so well for him.
Great lyric writer. My favorite track of his is Chasing Rodeo.
Okay.
I think from 2010.
Okay, yeah.
And it's one of the tracks I've showed students in songwriting lessons because, the verse development is so great. Verse 1, verse 2, verse 3. And there's not much space to say what he says, but lyrics can be hard when you've only got 4 lines to tell the first part of the story.
Yes. Yeah.
So
you'll make it count.
Committing to paper.
Yeah, committing, and I think that, so he had the lyric for this chorus of this song written already, but there was no music.
Right.
And so it was like any other session where I was just kind of going through musical ideas, and he was kind of rapping what he had on the paper. Right. Over whatever, and I would just play different music ideas, and that's sometimes how people work, is if they have a melody, you just try and find different pieces of music, or you play it, or so you're just kind of doing everything on the fly. But I came across this melody I'd made another day, but it was in a different tempo and a different key, and so I just kind of had this kind of thing.
That's so hooky.
And I think it was at a different tempo, but when we condensed it to the tempo that he was at, it just clicked. Yeah.
So how old was that melody that you'd written before?
I think I had a bank of melodies, so I think it was, what I used to do in my off time was I used to just make sounds and melodies if I wasn't inspired to write a song, and then I would resample those melodies, because I knew people got in trouble for sampling. So I was like, well, I love the feel and the vibe of sampling, but if I can sample myself, then I don't have to clear, you got 100% publishing.
Yeah. It's all yours.
Yeah. So that I think I'd made 2 months before, something like that.
So different key, different tempo.
Different key, different tempo, exactly. And I couldn't even tell you how. I know the process I used to do was I used to write the melody and then chop the melody and then so it was like this re-augmentation of something, and I used to love that process. And so I had basically that, and then it just fit with kind of what he was singing, and I had sort of the vocals there.
Hey, the body's rocking and I feel alright. Late nights with the girl until we dance all night. Hey, I got the vibe to set your nighttime vibe.
And that was just the start of it, and then from there we just kind of added different parts, and
that fits so well together.
Yeah.
I mean, that hook, and then, it's funny you said before it's the first track he's sort of sung on.
Yes.
But the first thing I heard when I heard that track was, man, what a great singer.
Yeah.
What a soulful singer.
Yeah. I think, and also with him as well, he never had training with singing too. Right. So I think coming from like being a rapper, he was great with writing lyrics, because lyrics is kind of all you have in hip hop, I guess. And so he had that, which was amazing, but he didn't have any formal melody training or so I think that it was free for him, and I think he taught me as well, is like, just be free with production and be free as a songwriter, and don't be conformed to what you've heard or what shouldn't be, and if it's different genres, it's like just put them together and don't be scared. And that's I've got very good memories of making music with him. So
what's involved in creating a hip-hop track?
I mean, a lot of it is really, like, I spend a lot of time playing in bands as well and doing stuff, and I think really it's hip-hop, authenticity of the vocal is probably like country or other, that's the number one thing, and I think people just feel it, like you can tell.
I can feel it.
Like what you're saying, which is great, and so that's like the number one thing. And then I think from a production perspective, it's really like, what's really important is just having the main thing that kind of drives, and then a strong rhythm section for this stuff is really important. So you just have like sort of kick, snare, and then a bass, and then generally that, if you got a good writer, they'll just go to town over that. So. And then the rest is just kind of
super groovy.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. So that's kind of really like really strong rhythm section, really strong vocal.
Yeah. What is that sound at the start?
The sound, it's.
Oh, we'll go to the track in a minute, but what is that? Just out of curiosity.
I think it's from a synth initially. So I think it was from a synth I used to use. I mean, for the people that use software synths, I think it was called Silence.
Silence?
It's an oldie.
Oh, it's the best.
Oldie but a goodie,
So many good presets in Silence. Yeah.
I think it was from that, because what I would do is I'd make a sound, I'd make a melody, and I would render it to audio, and then I would re-import it as audio, and then edit it again sometimes. So I'd lose track of, what the
settings. Yes.
And I would do that sometimes on purpose, because I didn't want to know as well specifically what. Because, if you knew that the initial sound was a guitar, you'd treat it in a way, your brain would say, I have to treat this like and I think I've always made the best music, or what I feel is the truest music, just off instinct. And sometimes you have to remind yourself that that's the thing that we do, we're not to get too deep, but really,
even with mixing, thinking about Spike Stent, who's one of the, for those of you who don't know who Spike Stent is, mixer for Coldplay, Madonna, Muse.
Yeah, amazing.
Him talking about mixing is he'll cover up meters on the desk, and one of the latest interviews, he'll have assistants saying, "Can't you see the needles?" And he's like, "I don't care. It sounds great."
And I even go back. This is a great exercise for me too. So I go back on this session. This is 21st of December 2016, and this is a long time ago we made this, but it's so simple. And there's so many things like I wasn't, like for people out there that know what I'm talking about, there's no parallel compression, there's no buses and routing things, and like there's really simple vocal effects, really simple processing, but I think if you just have the right things, it just works. You know, yeah. I have to remind myself that.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Fantastic.
It is. Yeah.
So we'll look at the breakdown. For
Yeah.
that in a minute. But you've also worked with some other very well-known artists, the Veronicas, E40, The Last Dinosaurs. Can you talk a little bit about your involvement with some of those artists?
Yeah, I mean, so the Veronicas, they're great. They're great girls. I kind of worked with an artist who had collaborated with an artist called All Day.
Right.
And he worked with the Veronicas, and he recommended I work on one of their songs to them.
Fantastic.
I believe. So that's how they found me, and I worked on one of their songs that he featured on, and then kind of hit it off with the girls, and we ended up doing a couple other things. We did a show as well, a TikTok show, and that was great. They were awesome. They're true artists, like people that think that certain, you know, people, they see what they see on TV or they see, you know, on social media and they assume what people are like, and they think, oh, well, they're not real artists because they're celebrities now or whatever. It's like, no, they were in the studio and they were like, do this, try this, you know, like not in a, you know, obviously like a bossy way, but they you know, they'll right into it. And I would add things and they'd say, that's great, but that's not us, you know, and they knew what they wanted, yeah.
I'm a huge fan of them. I remember when they first got, you know, a lot of traction, 2005, 2006, when I was working in a warehouse, you know, picking and packing boxes. And a lot of their tracks were on the radio. But no, I think they're fantastic and great melodies.
Yeah.
Brilliant artists. So
they were probably the last of a type of artist where, I mean, they worked with Max Martin, you know, and they were telling me stories about that. And I mean, how many people, Australians, have got to do that? And I just think artists like that, we have to be, you know, we're so quick now. Everybody's memory is like 25 minutes, you know, like, but we're so quick to onto the new thing, the next thing. But there's certain artists, you know, that we really need to make sure that we respect and honor, because like they've helped create and pushed boundaries for other people to step into. And I think those girls are definitely two of those artists for sure.
So let's talk about Ivana.
Oh,
so
yes.
You've also moved into music management.
Yeah.
And one of the artists you're managing now is Ivana, who was top 6.
Yeah.
And that's semi-finalist?
Semi-finalist
on Australian Idol.
Yeah.
Right. So I've interviewed John Copley.
Yeah.
And John is a touring manager.
Yeah.
Renee Lafleur and Conrad Sewell.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the management side of things, because from my knowledge of management, let artists be artists, and managers take care of things that aren't necessarily in the creative realm.
Yes.
Right. So
I met Ivana on, I did a show, I mentioned I did a show with the Veronicas. I did a season 2 of that, and she won, this was before she did Idol, and she actually won that show, and it was called Undiscovered. It was a TikTok show, and I met her on that, and she just had that passion I was talking about for music. And I think when I see that in young people, I just really want to help nurture that and help them, you know, however I can get to where they need to go. And so I stayed in touch with her in that process, and she said, look, I'm thinking about going on Idol. She goes on Idol, and I thought it was a great idea. But, you know, some people say, oh, your career's dead when you go on Idol. And I think it's true for certain types of artists, you know, and everybody's different. But so I think for her it was great. And so she did that, and she's got a phenomenal voice, you know.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
That new track.
Yeah.
It's a banger.
Yeah, thank you. And
It's only been out a week or so?
a little bit, yeah, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's doing well.
Yeah, thank you. And so, you know, when the opportunity came up to do it, she was kind of saying to me, you know, there's managers reaching out to me and people reaching out to me, but I think just from a trust perspective, I was kind of like, I said to her, I said, look, I don't know everything there is to know about management. I probably don't know a lot about management, but I just knew I would put her sort of best interest out. And I spoke to someone I know who's overseas. He's a manager, and he said, look, you can learn everything else. He said, just if you've got the artist's best interests, that's the number one thing you can do. So I've been doing that ever since. It's
fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at this track.
Yeah.
So this is the original.
This is basically the original session. I mean, there's a couple of things that I have expired from from back then, but yeah, I've rebuilt it basically to how it was. So stepping back in time. So yeah, like I said, that's the main sample.
So you built that sample.
Yeah.
So silence was one of the
sounds,
yeah.
yeah. And then I think the next thing was the clap, was just this sound. Real simple. And we're like kind of at sort of like 98 BPM, so it's a mid-tempo sort of thing.
Can I ask you a question on claps?
Yes.
A lot of other producers I've spoken to, claps are tricky.
Yeah.
Have you found claps, or is that something it's hard to find a good clap?
Yeah, it can be. I think the best thing I usually do is I let the artist help me pick generally if I can. So if I'm in the session and I'm building the track, I just get the feedback off them usually. So yeah. If you just feel it rather than
The intro hook, clap.
Yep. And then that's pretty much, everything else is really simple. Kick is just 4 to the floor. And then there's this like snare pattern that I think makes it a bit unique, which kind of gives it a
Bit of a shuffle.
shuffle. Yeah, sort of like a Afro beat and the bass. I was really into doing bass slides back then with software.
So you're automating that slide?
Exactly, yeah. So you can hear probably like, I wonder if you might not be able to hear that. There's one here. Yeah, so you can hear some of these. But that was such a like.
It's hip.
Yeah, that was especially 2016. It was like, that stuff.
It sounds real.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're actually using the modulation.
Yeah.
On that, actually playing it. That's great.
Yeah, I think you just, when you've got a digital thing, you do as much as you can to try and make it, real and
variations on the
exactly
on the MIDI. Yeah.
You know what I should show you is there's some guitars on here.
Please do.
It's a guitar podcast.
I like guitar. I love music production also.
Yeah. There's a it's funny is like I'm gonna get flamed for this, but so it's a DI like we talked about, but I realized there's a bung note in here. So if I play the so that's the
it's good.
But
it's part of it.
With effects.
But that note in itself, it doesn't sound out of key.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think I've heard the multi-tracks the old multi-tracks for like Superstition.
Yeah.
And I've also heard it through the Grapevine. By Creedence.
Yeah.
And soloing those individual tracks. The amount of bleed from other, because they're in the same room.
Yeah.
And the amount of wrongness in there.
Yeah.
I think that's what creates it. And, the feel is there. And, as an acoustic guitar player, I've done plenty of takes and gone, I clipped the string.
Yeah.
But that was a great take.
Yes.
I was talking to Michael Fix earlier this week, who's world-renowned fingerstyle player, and he was talking about, going through takes and going, the energy was right in that take, but there was maybe a little bit of a mistake. Yeah. But we'll keep that because this other take that's perfect, it's kind of stale.
Yeah.
It's a very groovy sounding.
I agree with you. Yeah, I've got to give a bit of love to my friend Declan who played on this, and he was he's such a cool dude, and in the track, it just feels great. It gave it just such a different, something like some sort of cultural texture. I don't even know what you'd call it. It was just amazing, the feel of it. So I've been lucky. I had a few people ask me.
Excuse my language, but it's a real badass lick. Yeah. Which is a good thing. I've said that before. Dave McGuire is a good friend of mine, a blues guitar player.
Yeah.
And when I hear that, dum 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 dum, I just go, that's Dave McGuire.
Yeah.
Real like snarly.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So that's a DI?
DI.
Yeah.
Real simple. Just some reverbs on there. And
I won't blame you for using a DI.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's good. And that's what it's, and I think it's good for people to know that you can have songs that are really successful just with really simple equipment, and
there's plenty of very big songs on the radio with DI guitar.
Yeah.
The amp modeling that we have now is incredible.
Yeah.
Recently, my friend, he bought Guitar Rig 7.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe,
some
of the settings on there and how real they sounded. And it's a contentious topic. And look, I am all for real amps. I do love real amps, but I mean, the software is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, when you can pull up a Marshall, you know, and it sounds,
Yeah.
as good, in my opinion, sometimes. It's
hard because
incredible.
you can pull a laptop out of your backpack and you can be.
That's right.
And you've got all
Yeah.
that stuff. And I mean, the convenience is. I worked with. They're probably my favorite band, The Last Dinosaurs. They're such a good bunch of boys. And they're guitar mad. Like they've got like I mean, we couldn't even work in my studio when I worked with them sometimes because they had so much equipment and stuff. And they got pedals and they make the craziest tones and it's amazing. But that's their thing, you know, and I love that that's their thing, and they bring that, and that's like their fingerprint, you know. And for me, I'm more just a songwriter producer, so this works for me.
Right. Horses for courses. I mean, we were speaking earlier about how the track I was working on with Stuart Stewart.
Yeah.
I went and re-recorded.
Yeah.
With my Mesa Mark V.
Yeah.
DI was better.
Yeah.
With the amps, it just for that track.
Yeah.
So. No,
Yeah.
that's great. So that's a DI with reverb.
DI with reverb, that's it. And then I mean, there's another one here. It's a little bit of flange and reverb. Yes, and then Deverb, the Pro Tools.
Reverb.
The cheapest reverb in the world. You know, 70% wet, 65.
You know, Deverb I've used in mixing on my drum reverb.
Yeah.
Medium Hall at 700 seconds. Sounds great.
Right, yeah.
Warren Hewitt uses Deverb.
Deverb. It doesn't. It's not what you use. It's how you use it. I mean, everybody says it, but it's so true. Like, and this is good for me because I get obsessed with like the type of reverb and all these things. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
Was it a plate?
yeah, exactly. Was it a plate? Yeah. If the bones, I find this with a song, it's like if the bones are good, it's just so easy to, you know, it still takes work, but it's so much easier to just build on top of and finish and to make something unique when the original pieces are so authentic. I think it really makes it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So the vocal.
Yeah.
Hey, the body's rocking and I feel alright. Late nights with the golden till we dance all night. Hey, I got the vibe to set your nighttime vibe. Hell yeah, we order about it till the club runs out. They can't fuck with my vibe tonight. They can't fuck with my style tonight. They can't fuck with my whip tonight. No.
Yeah. So these are kind of just some backings, and I think I put an octave.
They can't.
There's like a little octave.
They can't.
People probably know this plugin.
Echo.
Yeah, a little Alter Boy.
Not Echo Boy. Yeah.
Alter Boy.
Sound Toys.
Yeah. So it's just like a blended octave under that. At the time, I remember he was like, put the demon voice on my background.
Right.
That's what he used to call. He used to call it the demon voice.
Right.
Or Barry. He used to call it like Barry White. He said, put
the
Barry on my voice.
Yeah.
But
So the vocal chain processing. What do you
really look? I'm seeing it again like you. So auto tune. This is the new version, but I had the old
Antares,
version on there. Our compressor is just
It's awesome. Yeah.
CLA vocals.
Yep.
I mean, feel how you feel about this, but it works.
Sounds great.
I even used the reverb out of this, which I never do anymore. But
It sounds great.
maybe I should go back to doing that again.
Those plugins by CLA, they're fantastic. I've
Yeah.
used that quite a lot on bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the bass version or the vocal?
The bass version.
Yeah,
sorry,
bass version.
The bass version I've used.
Yeah,
a lot on
yeah.
bass,
Just a bit more EQ here. Yep. And then roll
Fab
off.
filter, yep.
That's it. And then limiter at the end. That's literally it. And like the one thing I think that was kind of cool and original for this was I had a delay that was doing, I was obsessed with the reggae filtered delay back then. And it's like, I know it sounds, it's called
delay?
dub quarter filtered. And when I was in a reggae band, they used to just play a skank and you just hit this feedback on the skank and it would just sound like that ding, 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 ding. Yeah. And so I put that on his vocal. So that's the wet.
And that's underneath.
Underneath. So if I play that with the,
To set your nighttime vibe. Hell yeah, we order
it's just
about
kind
it.
of dancing around and
Can you mute it just to give the audience how? Because I think people take for granted sometimes, here's a song, but there's sometimes so much going on in a track. And you take out something like that and you lose part of the groove.
Yes, yeah, I'll play it with and without. I mean, this is with the delay.
Hey, the body's rocking and I feel alright. Late nights with the girl, them so we dance all night.
And then-
Hey, I got the vibe to set your nighttime fire. Hell yeah, we order about it to the club.
Completely different.
Yeah, it just kind of loses a bit of
Yeah.
groove or
Yeah.
something. And I knew he grew up on reggae music, you know, being from Zimbabwe, and that was sort of something where I was like, if we can put that into this style
Yeah.
of music, it would
It's
just,
fantastic.
yeah. And I mean, it kind of just worked, but
Bob Clearmountain's one of my favourite mixes
amazing.
of Delays.
Yeah.
And you don't notice it.
Yeah.
But it's you know, the Reckless album.
Yeah.
Listen to some of the vocal tracks on that, and just, you know, the vocals are so up front, but the delays
Yes.
and reverbs that he uses
Yeah.
on Bryan Adams is phenomenal.
Yeah, effects are such a top. Like, I mean, people always want to know about effects, but I think if you look at it like effects, you're kind of like dressing something up, aren't you? So it's like you've got the instrument, and then the effect kind of dresses the sound, and then depending on the era. So like, you know, you think about the cell phones in the movies in the 90s, it was like, but then, or you think about like the shoulder pads that people, it's like effects are kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, they put you in that,
They put you in an era.
in an era. Yeah.
I've always, it's a good conversation I've had with people.
Yeah.
Is about pinpointing eras
Yeah,
with effects.
with effects.
And also EQ, like
Yeah.
thinking about an EDM track from 2010
Yeah.
compared to an EDM track from early 2000s.
Yes.
Different EQ
Yeah.
point. Everything is very sizzly.
Yes.
In the 2010s.
We got
like,
really sizzly for
Oh, it's like, you know, Hardwell.
yeah.
But then, you know, now a lot of EDM tracks are still crispy.
Yes.
But some of them sound a little bit more rounded.
In the more
kick drums.
refined. Yeah. I love how genres influence music, commercial music. So
Yeah.
if you look at, like, say, you know, rock and roll and how it influenced pop music, and then you look at, say, drum machines and how it influenced pop music, and then I love how things like genres like hip hop influence pop music, and then everybody now wants massive kick drums and low end because of that,
Yeah.
you know, and dance music influenced tempo, and everybody's like, speed my song up, and
Yeah.
TikTok is
Yeah.
it is sped up, and I love how
125,
that.
baby.
Yeah, 180.
Yeah, so totally.
Yeah, so I mean that's basically this one, which
So
yeah,
this is 98.
the tempo is
Tempo's
98.
98.
Yeah, which was a weird.
It's strange
sort
because
of-
if you ask me, it's moving along.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think you can really influence listeners with the speed of a melody can really make people feel like if it's faster, if it's slow. Before you even use a drum, you can influence people's movement just from a melody. Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah,
I think of something like Where the Streets Have No Name by U2. So take away the delay.
Yeah.
And he's just playing da da da
Yes.
da da da. With the delay, you get dugga 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 dugga
Yes,
dugga.
yeah.
It's a completely different,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
can we hear it one more time from,
Yeah, of
from the start?
course.
Just from the hook and then the
Yeah,
claps.
I'll just play it. I'll just play it from here. So.
Hey, the body's rocking and I feel alright. Late nights with the girl, them so we dance all night. Hey, I got the vibe to set your nighttime vibe. Hell yeah, we order about it till the club runs out. They can't fuck with my vibe tonight. They can't fuck with my style tonight. They can't fuck with my wave tonight. No, 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 no. Hey, the body's rocking and I feel alright. Late nights with the girl, them so they dance all night. Hey, I got the vibe to set your night on fire. Hell yeah, we order about it till the club runs out. They can't fuck with my wave tonight. They can't fuck with my vibe tonight. They can't fuck with my style tonight. No, 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 no. Oh yeah. Late nights.
Amazing.
Thank you, man.
That is amazing. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I know you've worked across several genres.
Yeah.
Pop, indie,
Yep.
R&B, hip hop.
Yep.
Is approaching drums.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because, you know, in guitar world, as a lot of you guitar players, different styles,
Yeah.
different techniques, different
Yeah.
amps, different
Yeah.
guitars.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know from music production, you know,
Yeah.
rock drums, hip hop drums,
Yeah.
EDM drums,
Yeah.
you know, they vary. And,
Yeah. They live in different spaces.
and I was quoting Spike then again, you know, if your drums aren't right, forget it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the hip hop kick?
Mm.
And what do you look for in a hip hop kick? You hear a lot of EDM guys always talking, it's hard to find a good kick.
Yeah.
What do you look for?
I think sometimes this just sounds really probably sounds really simple and simplistic, but you're just looking for it to feel the right way, and sometimes that happens really quick, and then unfortunately sometimes that happens near the end, and so I'm guilty of sending a song to mastering and changing the kick before I do it. Sometimes. Yeah, like I'll do it.
But the song's there.
The song's there, you know. But sometimes I'll do the kick and just just let me check it, you know. And but yeah, it's such an important part of the song in hip hop, EDM, but it's become important in almost every genre now because it really is like such an integral part of a song. You know, like I talk about vocals and drums and production. I always talk about those two things because they're really like you get those right, like you were saying. They're the most important things.
So you've taken out kicks before you've sent them to mastering?
Yeah, I've swapped them out.
Right.
I've bounced different versions with different kicks, and even when the song's mixed and finished, I'll do that. And I think you just you know when it's right, and when it's not, you can't try and fool yourself that that it is. But yeah, artists usually are pretty good judges of it because even if they can't speak the exact language, they know when it feels right. And they'll be like, something's not right about, you know. And even in genres like you talk about, like say indie, and it's a different type of low end, but you just kind of, if it feels great to them and it feels great to you, then you just go with it.
One thing I've noticed, that kick drum's very short.
Yes.
But, you know, if that kick drum is long, that can change, like the tail on the low end, that will change the groove of the song. And I've noticed, just in my experience with working in EDM and talking to some other EDM producers, that it's one of the big things is, like, you know, that low end can shape the groove of the song, both the bass and the kick.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Exactly right. Like the length of your sound is gonna dictate, like the type of sound you pick is tempo specific, it's genre specific. Like the kick drum can change the genre of the song.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes a really good thing. Because you hear people be like, oh, I never heard that sound with that. And that's what really makes your ears prick up and go, well, that's something new, you know.
Is there processing on that kick drum?
This one, really, there is something. R-bass, you know this one?
I know R-bass.
You know R-bass. I can play
set
it.
at 80?
Set high, 60 or 65, but the intensity is high, like probably higher than. I mean, it's subtle.
Wow.
It does.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
No, that's a lot.
And this is the thing. I mean, back then I didn't really
Mixing
know.
subtle, like,
So it probably isn't subtle, you know. And like I think back then I was trying to do broad moves because I couldn't maybe hear the subtleties, and I think if you see really great people paint, they always do the broad strokes. Yeah, and you know, you got to detail. There's a time for detailing, but I think that was what was beautiful about my journey then as well, was I didn't know any rules, and I didn't know I wasn't consuming YouTube all the time, and I wasn't consuming other people's, and I was just figuring things out, and this is all in the red, and you can see that, but like...
Sounds great.
Yeah, it worked, you know, and I want to go back to that sometimes. I want to go back, I got to remind myself to go back to that guy that didn't know what he was doing, but just was going off this.
Using your ears.
You know, using your ears, and that was it.
Fantastic. Well, folks, you can find this track on Spotify.
Yeah.
It's called Late Nights by Camouflage Rose.
Yeah.
Have I got that right?
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mates, thank you so much for sharing that. And
That's
you mixed
right.
and mastered that track.
Yeah.
And this track went platinum.
Yeah.
Sony. Yep.
Yeah, it went platinum. Another one where you don't know what's going to happen, and you just put it out, and it was great.
So speaking about, you know, the artists you've collaborated with, your job as a producer, client comes into the studio, so your role can sometimes vary depending on how much production and engineering knowledge an artist can have. So sometimes an artist walks in and it's trying to convey, you know, I'm hearing blue.
Yeah.
Or it can be anything.
Yeah.
You know, your role, how do you figure that out with a client? And also, how do you build the trust relationship? Because you can be the best at what you do, but especially, I know, in hip-hop, a lot of the collaboration is one-on-one, one-on-two.
Yep.
You're in closed rooms for many hours, so it's important that you guys have a pretty good relationship first off, so the artist and vice versa, you can trust each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you've always got to make sure that you're listening. You always got to be, I'm going to quote this, I saw this thing Pharrell said the other day, but he said, a good collaborator meets someone at their energy, but he said a great collaborator will pull their energy if they need to. So if someone comes in with an alpha personality, you don't always have to match that. You can pull back and let them, and I think you just have to be open and make sure that the most important thing, more important than all of this stuff, is just people are willing and you know, safe enough to share their ideas and comfortable enough. Yeah. I think that's the number one. The rest you can figure out. Like you can, you know, there's so many things now with software but the real art, I think, is, and you see people like Rick Rubin talk about this the most, and it really is true. You just have to be so transparent with someone else's vision that, you know, you're just a vessel for them to get that out. I think that's the true producing. That's what I've found. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you touched on Alpha meets Alpha.
Yeah.
You know, been plenty of bands and studios over the years, and Alpha meets Alpha usually creates fire.
Yes, yes,
so,
yes.
But no, it's so true, isn't
Yeah.
it? And I have seen people with strong personalities who are very good at recognizing, you know, someone else with a strong personality and pulling back and letting them, you know, be who they have to be.
Yeah.
Especially as a producer, because, as you know, your role as a producer is to support the artist and bring their musical vision to life.
Yeah.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No worries.
This has been really interesting and exciting.
Yeah.
You know, because you're the first producer to come on
Okay.
the Guitar Cast. It's called the Guitar Cast, but as you probably noticed, you know, alternating week we have a guitar player and then someone from a different instrument field, because I love working and collaborating and getting to know what other people do from all aspects of music. So what's the plan for the future? So Ivana's got some shows coming up.
Yeah, Ivana's she's a big focus, and more of this. I mean, I love. I think now I'm doing. I was had my head in producing for 10 years. You know, just like this was all I was doing, mixing, songwriting. It's been great to just have a bit of breadth now and look at things like management and. Even just learn the business side of music, and that's another whole. We don't even have to go. But learning about that stuff, and because I have to do that for my artists now that I'm managing, and so I've got to teach her, you know, the things that I had to learn along the way, and more of that management. Obviously, more of this. I'll do this till the day I die, I think. But so.
I meant to ask you, are you strictly in Pro Tools, or are you working in multiple DAWs with your setup?
Yeah, so I started, I didn't say this actually, I started in one called Fruity Loops.
Fruity Loops?
FL Studio. Yeah, he loves it.
I know it, I remember it in the early days.
Yes. Yeah.
But, and I mean, it's, I should be saying this, but you know, Fruity Loops, people laugh at it, but I mean,
pretty powerful.
Avicii, Martin Garrix, Zed.
Some big producers.
Zed stuff, So
I actually started this song in that. And then I always finish everything in Pro Tools. Now I use a lot of Ableton because I find it, I look at these DAWs kind of like instruments where like if you know a few of them, it's like a multi, you know, guitar, piano. So it just makes the collaboration a bit easier. Sometimes someone's got a session.
Totally.
They can send you the session. So I've learned Ableton, but I always finish my tracks in here. It just feels a certain way to me, feels like home.
I've heard quite a few people, you know, work in Ableton, but will mix or edit in Pro Tools. And vice versa. You know, Ableton, make beats. It's a great program for making and Logic.
Logic as well.
I think, like, you know, people get hung up on which is the best DAW, but as you're saying, knowing several DAWs allows you to work with people that might bring something in Fruity Loops, Ableton Cubase.
100%.
And, you know, it's a must now for producers because there are so many good DAWs and they all have great sounding mix engines.
They do.
It's that big argument of which one has the best sounding mix engine.
You're right. And it's like guitars. It's like, if you put, like my friend Lachlan, like from The Last Dinosaurs, you put like a $20 guitar in his hand, it'll sing. You know, it'll just sound like, I'm sure it does with you. You know, like you put like a $3,000 original Fender, you know, or 20 that whatever in someone that doesn't have feel and whatever. It's just gonna yeah.
It's the person using the tool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mate, thank you so much.
No worries.
This has been real fun. So if people want to reach out to James, he's here in Brisbane. They can find you on the socials at James Angus Music.
James Angus Music's my Instagram. And yeah, if you want to contact me, hello@jamesangusmusic.com.
Yeah.
And say hi. And yeah, that's hopefully I'll be putting some more. It's the first time I'm really doing this too, so it's been great. I really appreciate you having me.
Super fun,
yeah.
and I'm so glad we got to hear that track.
Yeah.
And also, as we mentioned, go and check out Chanel Loren's "Rollin'." That's the other song that was nominated for an ARIA in 2023.
Yeah.
So fantastic, mate. Thanks again
Thank
so much.
you.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, really appreciate it.